The man stood near the return counter, holding a small brown box tightly against his chest. He looked tired. His shirt was clean, but worn at the edges, and his eyes showed the kind of exhaustion that comes from long days and short nights. He was a single father. Every morning he woke up before sunrise to get his young child ready for school, then rushed to work, then rushed back home again. Life had not been kind to him, but he kept moving forward because someone depended on him. Inside the box was a kitchen appliance he had bought 2 weeks earlier. It had stopped working after only 3 uses. He had saved money for months to buy it, skipping small comforts and cutting back on groceries. When it broke, it felt like another heavy stone added to his already full backpack of stress. Still, he did not raise his voice or complain loudly. He simply came to the store with the receipt, hoping for a simple exchange. The store was busy that afternoon. People moved up and down the aisles, carts squeaking, children pulling on their parents' arms, phones ringing at the checkout area. The noise made the space feel tight and crowded. The man waited in line quietly. When it was finally his turn, he placed the box and receipt on the counter and spoke in a calm voice. "Hello, this item stopped working. I would like to return or exchange it." The store manager, standing behind the counter, barely looked up at first. Their eyes were fixed on a screen. When they finally glanced at the man, their face showed clear annoyance. Without greeting him, they picked up the receipt and looked at it quickly. "You used this already," the manager said in a sharp tone. "We don't take back used items." The man stayed polite. "It broke after a few days. I followed the instructions. I just want a working one." The manager sighed loudly and rolled their eyes. People in line behind him began to watch. The manager lifted the box and shook it slightly, as if checking its weight. "How do I know you didn't break it yourself?" They said. "People try to cheat stores all the time." The words hit the man hard. He felt embarrassed. He was not used to being treated like this. Still, he kept his voice steady. "I am not trying to cheat anyone. I work hard for my money. I just want what I paid for." The manager's voice grew louder. "Your problem is not my problem. Read the policy sign. It's right there." The man looked at the sign. It was small, with tiny letters. He leaned closer to read it, then pointed at a line that said defective products could be exchanged within 30 days. "It says here," before he could finish. The manager cut him off. "You think you're smarter than me?" They said. "Don't tell me how to do my job." Now more people were watching. Some customers slowed their walking to listen. A few took out their phones quietly. The man's face turned red, not from anger, but from shame. He did not want attention. He just wanted to solve the problem and go home to his child. "I'm sorry if I upset you," he said softly. "I'm only asking for help." That made the manager even more upset. They stepped closer to the counter edge. "You people always play the victim," they said loudly. "Always asking for special treatment." The words were unfair and hurtful. The man's hands shook slightly as he held the box. He took a deep breath. "I'm not asking for special treatment," he said. "Just fair treatment." That was when everything changed. The manager suddenly reached across the counter and slapped the man. Across the face. It was quick, sharp, loud, enough that the nearby noise seemed to stop for a second. The man froze. He did not fall. He did not shout. He just stood there, eyes wide, hand slowly rising to his cheek. The room went silent. Even the register beeping stopped. Everyone stared. A child nearby gasped. A woman covered her mouth. Someone whispered, "Did that really just happen?" The man felt heat spread across his face, not just from the slap, but from the shock. He had been insulted before in life. He had been treated badly before. But no one had ever hit him in public like this. For a moment, his mind went blank. He thought about his child waiting at home. He thought about the bills on the kitchen table. He thought about how tired he was of always being the calm one. He could have reacted with anger. He could have shouted or pushed back. But he didn't. Instead, he slowly lowered his hand and looked straight at the manager. His voice was quiet, but steady. "Please don't touch me again." The manager laughed nervously, trying to look powerful in front of everyone. "What are you going to do about it?" They said, "Call security? You should leave before I ban you from this store." The man did not answer right away. He picked up his box and receipt and stepped aside, away from the counter. People watched him closely. Some expected him to storm out. Others expected him to start yelling, but he didn't do either. He took out his phone. His fingers moved calmly as he unlocked the screen. The manager continued talking loudly behind him, trying to regain control of the situation. "This is what happens when people don't respect store rules," the manager said to the line of customers. "Some people just want free stuff." The man ignored the comments. He walked a few steps away, closer to the front entrance, and placed the box on a small table near the door. He then made a phone call. When the call connected, he spoke quietly so only he could hear. "It just happened," he said. "Yes, in front of customers. I'm at the location now." He listened for a moment and nodded slightly. "No, I'm fine. I'll wait." He ended the call and put the phone back into his pocket. The manager noticed this and frowned. "Who are you calling?" They asked loudly. "Your lawyer?" "Good luck with that." Some employees nearby snickered. A few whispered to each other. One worker leaned against a shelf, watching the man with curiosity. The man did not respond. He simply stood there, calm, hands resting by his sides. His heart was beating fast, but his face showed control. A customer approached him quietly. "Are you okay?" The woman asked softly. He nodded. "Yes, thank you." Another man in line shook his head and said, "That was wrong. No one should be treated like that." The store manager crossed their arms, trying to look confident, but their eyes kept shifting toward the entrance and then back to the man. "Either buy something or leave," the manager said. "You're disturbing business." The man finally spoke again. "I will leave when I'm done." His voice was calm, but firm. The manager scoffed. "You don't get to decide that." But something about the man's calm behavior made the room feel different. The anger that had filled the space earlier was slowly turning into curiosity. People sensed that the story was not over. Outside, the sound of traffic passed by. Inside, customers waited, employees whispered, and the man stood quietly near the door, eyes focused forward. 2 minutes had not yet passed, but something big was about to happen, and no one in that store was ready for it. The man remained standing near the front entrance, breathing slowly. His face still burned where the manager had hit him, but he refused to touch it again. He did not want to show weakness. More than that, he did not want to give anyone the satisfaction of seeing him break. The store slowly returned to noise. Carts rolled again. The register started beeping. But the mood was different now. People were not shopping the same way. Many eyes kept moving toward the man, then back to the manager, then back again. The manager tried to act normal. They turned to the next customer in line and forced a fake smile. "Next," they said loudly. The customer stepped forward but hesitated. "I think I'll wait," they said, looking uncomfortable. Another customer whispered to a friend. That was not right. They shouldn't have touched him. One employee leaned over the counter and quietly asked the manager, "Are you sure that was okay?" The manager snapped back in a low voice, Mind your job." The man watched all of this without speaking. He stayed close to the door, not blocking anyone, just waiting. He checked his phone once, then placed it back in his pocket. A young worker near the shelves pulled out their phone and pretended to text, but the camera was clearly pointed toward the front. Another customer openly held their phone up, recording the scene. No one stopped them. The manager noticed the phones and became nervous. "Stop recording," they said loudly. "This is private property." But no one listened. The damage had already been done. The man took a slow step toward a nearby bench and sat down. He placed the box at his feet. He rested his elbows on his knees and stared at the floor for a moment. His thoughts were heavy. He remembered the morning rush, making breakfast, packing lunch, tying small shoes with sleepy hands pulling away. His child had hugged him at the door and said, "Don't forget to smile today." That memory hurt now. He wondered if he should have just left the store earlier, if he should have stayed quiet and accepted the loss. But then he thought about how many times he had stayed quiet before, how many times people like him were pushed aside. He lifted his head and looked at the manager again. The manager was now walking back and forth behind the counter, clearly upset. "This is ridiculous," they said. "One little problem and everyone acts like it's the end of the world." One older customer spoke up. "It wasn't a small problem. You hit him." The manager rolled their eyes. "I barely touched him. He was causing trouble." The man stood up slowly. "I was not causing trouble," he said calmly. "I asked for help." The manager pointed toward the exit. "You're done here. Leave now or I'll call security." The man did not move. "You can call whoever you want," he said. "I already made my call." That sentence caught attention. The manager stopped walking. "What does that mean?" they asked. "It means someone is coming," the man replied. A short laugh came from one of the employees. "Who's coming?" "Your friend?" The man did not answer. He simply walked back to his spot near the door and stood straight, hands folded in front of him. Minutes felt long. The store air felt heavy. Even the music playing softly from the speakers sounded strange now, like it didn't belong in the moment. The manager tried to continue working, but kept glancing at the door every few seconds. They pretended to organize papers and tap on the register screen, but their fingers shook slightly. Another customer walked up to the man. "Sir," the woman said gently, "do you want me to stay with you?" "I saw what happened." He smiled faintly. "Thank you. That's kind of you. I'll be okay." She nodded and stood nearby, arms crossed, watching the counter. A group of teenagers near the snacks whispered loudly, "Bro, that manager messed up." "Yeah, someone's getting fired today." The manager heard them and shouted, "Mind your business." But the whispers did not stop. The man looked around and noticed how many people were still watching. He felt uncomfortable being the center of attention, but he understood why it was happening. Something unfair had happened in public, and now the public was waiting for what came next. He thought about walking away again, about going home and hugging his child, about putting this behind him. But then he remembered the manager's words. The slap, the laughter. He decided to stay. Another minute passed. Suddenly, a loud engine sound came from outside. A dark vehicle stopped in front of the store entrance. It was not a normal customer car. It was clean, official-looking, with company markings on the side. People near the windows noticed first. "Who's that?" Someone whispered. The man's eyes lifted toward the door. He straightened his back. The store manager froze. The front doors opened, and a well-dressed person stepped inside, holding a folder and a tablet. Behind them walked another person in a suit. The air shifted instantly. Employees recognized them right away. Whispers spread fast. "That's from corporate. They never come here." The manager's face lost color. The man took one step forward and nodded respectfully. "Thank you for coming so quickly," he said. The corporate visitor looked at him and then at the manager. "Behind the counter, we received a call about a serious incident," they said calmly. "We were nearby for inspections." The manager forced a smile. "There's been a misunderstanding." The man spoke again. "There was no misunderstanding. I was hit." Silence filled the space. Customers leaned closer. Phones lifted higher. The corporate visitor turned to the manager. "Is this true?" The manager opened their mouth, then closed it. Their eyes moved around the room, seeing all the people watching. I was trying to handle a difficult customer," they said. The man shook his head slowly. "I was calm. I asked for a return on a broken item." The corporate visitor looked at the box on the floor. "May I see the receipt?" they asked. The man handed it over, while the visitor checked the details. The second corporate worker asked customers nearby what they saw. One by one, people spoke up. They argued. The manager raised their voice. "I saw the slap. It was loud." Each word added weight to the situation. The manager started sweating. "They were disrespectful," they said weakly. The man looked at the manager with steady eyes. "I never disrespected you." The corporate visitor finished reviewing the receipt and nodded. "This item qualifies for exchange," they said. Manager swallowed hard. But the moment was no longer about the appliance. It was about respect. The corporate visitor turned to the man again. "Are you okay?" "Yes," he replied. "But I won't forget what happened." The visitor nodded slowly. "We take this very seriously." The store felt like it was holding its breath. Employees stood stiff. Customers stopped talking. The manager realized something was wrong. Very wrong. They took a step back. "I didn't mean," but it was too late to fix it with words. The man stood tall. No longer just a tired single father, asking for a return. Now, he was someone everyone was watching. Someone whose calm response had changed everything. And this was only the beginning. The store was completely quiet now. Even the background music felt too loud, so someone behind the counter quickly turned it down. Everyone stood still, waiting for what would happen next. The corporate visitor stepped closer to the man and spoke in a respectful tone. "Thank you for staying calm during this situation," they said. "Before we continue, I need to understand something. Can you please explain why you contacted us directly?" The man took a slow breath. His heart was beating fast, but his voice stayed steady. "I didn't plan for this to happen," he said. "I came here as a regular customer. I wanted to see how this store treats people. I often shop here with my child. Today, I came alone. What happened showed me everything I needed to see." People in the store exchanged confused looks. "What does that mean?" Someone whispered. The corporate visitor nodded slowly. "Please continue." The man reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small wallet. He opened it and carefully removed an official company card. He handed it to the visitor. The visitor looked at the card, then lifted their eyes in surprise. Double quotes. "Yes," the man said quietly, before anyone could speak. "I am part of the company's leadership team. I help review store operations and customer treatment. I usually do this quietly, without telling anyone who I am." A wave of shock moved through the store. Employees gasped. Customers murmured. Phones moved closer. The store manager's face turned pale. Their mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. "You're lying," the manager said weakly. The corporate visitor held up the card so the manager could see it clearly. "It's real," they said. "He reports directly to regional leadership." The manager's knees looked weak. They grabbed the counter edge for support. The man did not look proud. He did not smile. His face showed sadness more than anything else. I grew up poor, he said calmly. I know what it feels like to be judged, ignored, and disrespected. That's why I visit stores quietly. I want to see the truth, not a performance. He looked around the store. What happened today should never happen to any customer. The manager tried to speak again. I didn't know who you were. If I had known, the man raised his hand gently. That's the problem, he said. You should treat everyone with respect, not just people with power. The room felt heavy with that sentence. The corporate visitor turned to the second worker and nodded. They opened the tablet and began recording details. We will document everything, they said, including witness statements and video recordings. Several customers stepped forward immediately. I recorded it, one man said, holding up his phone. So did I. Another woman added. They shared the files on the spot. The manager's breathing became fast and shallow. I was under stress, they said. We were short-staffed. I didn't mean to lose control. The man looked at them with calm eyes. Stress is not an excuse to hurt people, he replied. The corporate visitor nodded in agreement. Store leadership is trained to handle pressure professionally, they said. Physical behavior and public humiliation break company rules. The man walked slowly toward the counter where the manager stood. He stopped a few feet away, keeping a respectful distance. When I walked in today, he said, I wasn't thinking about my job title. I was thinking about my child, about feeding them, about doing the right thing. I was treated like I didn't matter. The manager lowered their head. I'm sorry, they whispered. The man paused for a moment. I accept the apology as a person, he said. But as a company leader, I cannot ignore what happened. He turned toward the corporate visitor. Please begin the formal process. The visitor nodded and spoke clearly. Based on the evidence and witness reports, we are placing the store manager on immediate suspension pending termination review. A loud gasp filled the store. The manager looked up quickly. You can't do this, they said. I've worked here for years. The visitor remained calm. Years of work do not cancel serious misconduct. The second corporate worker stepped forward. Additionally, they said, any employee who encouraged the behavior, mocked the customer, or failed to report the incident will be reviewed. Some employees stepped back nervously. The man looked at the workers who had laughed earlier. They avoided eye contact. He spoke gently, not angrily. I understand fear, he said. But silence helps bad behavior grow. Next time, choose courage. One young employee began to cry quietly. I'm sorry, they said. I should have said something. The man nodded. Learn from this. The corporate visitor asked the man, would you like to continue the store inspection today? He thought for a moment. Yes, he said. But first, I want to speak to the customers. He turned to face the crowd. Thank you for standing up today, he said. Many people walk away when they see wrong behavior. You stayed. You spoke. That matters. People nodded. Some clapped softly. The man then bent down and picked up the broken appliance box. I still need this exchanged, he said with a small smile. That small moment made the room breathe again. The corporate visitor handled the exchange personally. A new item was brought from storage and placed into the man's hands. No charge, the visitor said. And we will also provide a store credit for the inconvenience. The man shook his head gently. I don't want special treatment, he said. I want better treatment for everyone. The visitor respected his decision and put the credit back. Outside the store, more people had gathered near the windows, curious about the corporate vehicles. Inside, the manager was escorted to a private office area. They did not resist. Their shoulders were low, their steps slow. The man watched them go, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. He did not enjoy seeing someone lose their job, but he knew accountability was necessary. He turned back toward the store floor. The corporate visitor spoke again. "We will conduct full staff retraining. This location will be monitored closely." The man nodded. He checked the time on his phone. His child would be waiting soon. He took one final look around the store. It looked the same, but it felt different. People were quieter, more thoughtful. He adjusted the box under his arm and walked toward the exit. As the doors opened, sunlight poured in, but the story was not finished yet, because what he would do next would change more than just one store. The man stepped outside the store and felt the cool air touch his face. For a moment, he stood near the entrance, holding the box in his arms, trying to calm his thoughts. Inside, the situation was still unfolding. He could hear voices through the glass doors, low but serious. He did not walk away. Not yet. He leaned against the wall near the entrance and waited. He knew the next steps were important. What happened inside would shape how this store operated from now on. After a few minutes, the corporate visitor came outside to speak with him. "We have officially removed the manager from duty," they said. "Their access has been locked. Another supervisor is on the way to take control of the store for the rest of the day." The man nodded slowly. "Thank you for handling it quickly," he said. "But I want to make sure this is not just about one person." The visitor understood right away. "We agree," they replied. "This is about culture, not just behavior." They walked back inside together. When they entered, the store felt different. The employees were standing in small groups, whispering quietly. Some looked nervous. Others looked thoughtful. The customers who had stayed were still watching. The temporary supervisor arrived shortly after. They were calm and professional. They gathered all staff members near the front area. "I need everyone's attention," the supervisor said. "What happened today is serious. We are here to correct it properly." The man stood slightly to the side, not wanting to be the center of attention again. But everyone knew he was the reason this moment existed. The supervisor continued, "We will begin immediate interviews with each employee. Anyone who supported harmful behavior, encouraged disrespect, or failed to report, it will be reviewed." A few workers lowered their heads. One employee raised a hand slowly. "I didn't say anything earlier," they said. "I was scared of losing my job." The supervisor nodded. "Fear is real," they said. "But silence can hurt people. We need to build a workplace where speaking up is safe." The man stepped forward gently. "I don't want anyone punished just for being afraid," he said. "I want people to learn. I want this store to be better than it was today." The supervisor agreed. "We will focus on retraining, not just discipline," they said. "But there will be accountability for clear misconduct." Employees were sent one by one to the office for private talks. Some came back with red eyes. Some looked relieved. Some looked worried. The process took time, but it was necessary. Meanwhile, customers slowly returned to shopping. The tension eased little by little. The man stood near a shelf and waited quietly. A young cashier approached him carefully. "I want to apologize," the worker said. "I laughed earlier. I shouldn't have done that." The man looked at them kindly. "Thank you for saying that," he replied. "Remember this feeling. Let it guide you to be better." The cashier nodded and wiped their eyes. Another employee came over. "I was recording because I didn't know what else to do," they said. "I didn't step in." "You helped by keeping proof," the man said. "Next time, also use your voice." The employee nodded. After about 30 minutes, the supervisor gathered everyone again. "Here is what will happen next," they announced. "This store will close 1 hour early today. All staff will attend mandatory respect and customer care training starting tomorrow. Leadership roles will be re-evaluated. New policies will be enforced immediately. People listened carefully. This location will also receive surprise inspections regularly. The supervisor added. The man felt relief in his chest. This was not just about punishment. It was about change. The supervisor then turned toward him. Would you like to address the staff directly? They asked. He hesitated for a moment. He never enjoyed speaking in front of groups. But he knew this moment mattered. He stepped forward. I'm not here to make anyone feel small, he said. I came here as a tired father trying to return something that didn't work. What happened could have broken me, but it also opened a door to fix something bigger. He looked around the room. You never know what someone is carrying inside. Stress, loss, fear, responsibility. A kind word can change someone's whole day. A cruel action can stay in their memory forever. The room was quiet. Treat people the way you would want your family treated, he added. No one spoke. But many nodded. After that, the supervisor thanked him and allowed employees to return to their stations. The man picked up his box again. He was ready to leave. As he walked toward the exit, a group of customers clapped softly. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was gentle, respectful. He felt his face warm with emotion. He nodded to them in thanks and stepped outside. The sun was lower now. The day was moving on, but the memory of what happened would stay. He walked to his car and placed the box in the back seat. Before getting in, he sat for a moment and rested his head against the steering wheel. He closed his eyes. The slap replayed in his mind. The shock. The silence. The moment everything changed. Then another memory came. His child smiling that morning. He straightened up and took out his phone. He sent a quick message. On my way home. Picked up the new one. See you soon. A reply came almost instantly. Yay, be safe. He smiled, but before starting the car, his phone rang again. It was the corporate visitor. I wanted to update you, they said. The manager's termination has been approved by regional leadership. It's official. The man felt a heavy breath leave his chest. Thank you for letting me know, he said. There's more, the visitor added. We want you to help design the new customer respect training program. Based on what happened today, your perspective is important. He paused. He had never planned for this day to turn into something bigger. I'll help, he said finally. If it means fewer people get hurt like this. After ending the call, he started the car. As he drove away from the store, traffic moved slowly. People went about their normal lives, unaware of what had happened inside those walls. But for him, something had changed. He was still a single father, still tired, still carrying responsibility. But now, he also carried a new purpose, and he knew that the real impact of today had not fully shown itself yet, because the final part of this story would not happen in a store. It would happen at home. And it would shape how his child saw the world. The man pulled into his small apartment parking lot just as the sky was turning orange. He turned off the engine and sat quietly for a moment. The long day finally caught up to him. His shoulders felt heavy. His hands rested on the steering wheel as he took a deep breath. He picked up the box from the back seat and stepped out of the car. The building looked the same as always. Old paint on the walls. Quiet windows. Children's bikes leaning against railings. It was not fancy, but it was home. As soon as he opened the door to his apartment, small footsteps rushed toward him. You're back, his child shouted, wrapping their arms around his legs. He bent down and hugged them tightly. That hug washed away much of the stress from the day. I missed you, he said softly. I missed you too, the child replied. Did you get the new one? He smiled and lifted the box. Yes, I did. They jumped up and down with excitement. Can we try it now? Soon, he said gently. Let me wash my hands first. He walked into the kitchen and looked around. The place was simple but clean. A small table, 2 chairs, a few drawings taped to the fridge. He loved this space. It reminded him why he worked so hard. As he washed his hands, he looked at his reflection in the mirror above the sink. The faint red mark on his cheek was almost gone, but the memory was still fresh. He turned off the water and took the box to the counter. He carefully opened it while his child watched closely. Why did it take so long today? The child asked. He paused for a moment. He never liked lying. He also didn't want to scare them. Something difficult happened, he said slowly. But it ended in a good way. The child looked curious. Did someone yell at you? He smiled sadly. Something like that. He placed the new appliance on the counter and plugged it in. Sometimes, he continued, people forget how to be kind. Today, I had to remind someone. The child thought about this. Did you get mad? He shook his head. I felt hurt. But I stayed calm. Being calm helped fix the problem. The child nodded slowly, trying to understand. After setting everything up, they used the new appliance together. The kitchen filled with warm smells. Laughter replaced silence. It felt good to be home. Later that evening, after dinner and homework, the child fell asleep on the couch with a blanket. The man gently carried them to bed and tucked them in. Good night, the child whispered sleepily. Good night, he replied softly. He stood by the doorway for a moment, watching the slow rise and fall of their chest. This was his whole world. After leaving the bedroom, he sat on the couch and finally allowed himself to relax. He picked up his phone and saw several messages. One was from the corporate visitor. Training program outline is ready. We used your suggestions. Thank you for helping. Another message came from a regional leader. Your actions today reminded us why leadership matters. We plan to apply these changes across multiple stores. He placed the phone down and leaned back. He never wanted attention. He never wanted praise. He only wanted fairness. Yet, because he stayed calm instead of angry, because he chose patience over revenge, something bigger had started. Over the next few weeks, changes spread through the company. The store, where everything happened, reopened with new leadership. Posters about respect and customer care were placed near the entrance. Employees attended workshops. They practiced handling stress, listening better, and treating every customer with dignity. Mystery shoppers were sent to different locations. Training videos were updated. Rules became clearer. And slowly, something important happened. Customer complaints dropped. Employee behavior improved. The man continued his normal life. He still woke up early, still made breakfast, still rushed to work, still helped with homework at night. But now, once or twice a week, he also joined online meetings to help guide training programs. He shared real stories, not dramatic ones. Simple moments where kindness made a difference. One evening, while shopping at a different store with his child, something unexpected happened. They were standing in line when the cashier smiled warmly and said, "Take your time." No rush. The child looked up at him and whispered, "That was nice." He smiled back. Yes, it was. That small moment meant more than any title. A few days later, he returned to the original store quietly. No corporate badge. No special treatment. Just a regular visit. This time, the atmosphere felt different. Employees greeted customers politely. A worker helped an elderly man carry bags. Another worker patiently explained a return policy to a confused shopper. No, one recognized him, and that was exactly how he wanted it. As he walked out, he felt something warm inside. His chest. Change doesn't always come from loud voices. Sometimes it comes from quiet strength. That night at home, While helping his child with a school project, the child asked an unexpected question. Why do some people treat others badly? He put down the pencil and thought for a moment. Sometimes people are tired, he said. Sometimes they're afraid. Sometimes they forget that other people have feelings too. The child nodded. What should I do if someone is mean to me? He smiled gently. Stand up for yourself, he said. But don't become mean in return. Be strong and kind at the same time. The child smiled. I want to be like you. His chest tightened with emotion. You already are, he replied. Months passed. The red mark on his cheek faded completely. But the lesson stayed. He never spoke publicly about the incident. He didn't post it online. He didn't look for attention. But the impact continued quietly. New. Managers were trained differently. Employees were encouraged to support one another. Customers felt safer and more respected. One ordinary day had turned into something meaningful, not because of power, not because of money, but because one tired. Single father chose calm over anger, respect over pride, and courage over silence. That day in the store started with humiliation. It ended with change. And at home, it became a lesson passed to the next generation. A lesson that said, every person matters. Kindness is strength. And even when life hits you hard, you still get to choose who you become. And he chose to become someone his child could be proud of. Someone who turned pain into purpose. Someone who proved that real power is not in raising your hand, that it is in lifting others up.